In Philadelphia, it was a word that haunted, conjuring up unspeakable horrors. Children were told, if you don't behave, you'll end up in Byberry. From its beginnings in 1907, Byberry was in the hands of Philadelphia's corrupt political machine. Money for the hospital was siphoned off. Patronage workers filled the ranks. One worker choked a patient until the patient's eyes popped out. The worker was fired, but a politician soon reinstated him with a pay raise. Other staffers were criminals who were given the choice of jail or work at Byberry. Patients were neglected, abused, and died at the hands of workers or other patients. Byberry deteriorated, and in the fall of 1938, the state of Pennsylvania took over and renamed it Philadelphia State Hospital. The first state superintendent described Byberry as a medieval pest house, but the state would do no better. The federal government canceled its contract with Byberry to treat servicemen because of its horrible conditions. Books and magazines compared life at Byberry to Nazi concentration camps. Byberry held its ground.
Byberry seemed to have been cursed. There were well-intentioned efforts to make it a reasonable institution that cared for people with mental illness, and they never stuck.
In the late 1940s, Philadelphia State Hospital was home to 6,000 patients. It was overcrowded, understaffed, and underfunded. Treatment was virtually non-existent.
The other thing that folks often heard about PSH was it was the dregs of the dregs. Some people were buried there, and people just literally forgot about them because they were a challenging population of people.
We call it milkweed. Have you ever seen milkweed?
Yes, I have.
Uh-huh. Well, I have some here, and I'd like to show you this. This is milkweed, and look at this. When you open it, look what's inside. Isn't that pretty? Take some of them out in your hand. Take some in your hand.
As bad as Byberry was, most of the staff were decent people who dedicated themselves to helping their patients.
Some good things were done there. Some very, very dedicated professionals learned their craft there. And to work there, and even choosing to stay there, gave you some indication as to the dedication that they felt, because they weren't very well paid, but many of them really cared for those patients who were there, and that shouldn't be forgotten.
Hi, my name is Wendy Robinson, and this is Marge and Dan, and we are in Philadelphia tonight at their home. Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
And they're going to tell us a little bit about the history of the property and also some experiences they've had.
Well, the property dates back to the early 1900s, where they were farmlands. What we call the northeast of Philadelphia was not very densely populated. So the farmland, although it was growing vegetables and the like, it was designated that people from the Philadelphia Mental Hospital would come up and help the farmers to do the crops. Around 1930s, the state legislator decided to deed this property for indigent mental health people, and was able to get funding from the federal government to start the build of what we know today as Byberry Hospital. It progressed through the 40s and into the 50s. During the 40s, they had about 1,800 people on staff here taking care of about 6,000 what they consider mentally disturbed people. Once they got into the late 50s, funding started to cease, and it became a difficult thing for them to get funding to build additional buildings. The federal government stepped in, gave them the funding, and they built what came to be about a multiple of 10 or 15 buildings that housed the mentally disabled here, including children. In the 60s, under President Kennedy's reign, he started to once again defund these programs, and that's kind of when the abuses started to happen within this property because of the lack of funding, lack of staff, lack of support. Eventually, the whole complex started to deteriorate. It became a burden, and in the late 70s, early 80s, it was deemed that it was scheduled to be closed. During those years, there were a lot of abuses where many, many people had died. It's all documented if you look up the history of Byberry Hospital. And I guess starting in the mid to late 80s, it was deemed to be closed, and the patients were all moved away. But still, this property was abandoned. It was a wreck. There had tunnels in here that would become outlets for teenagers and the like to start destroying. And eventually, around 2006, a developer came in and took the property off of the hands of the state, and they started building what they call the Arbors at Eagle Point.
Hi, I'm Marge. Dan and I were very aware of what property we were buying on, and I felt that it was okay to do it. Little did I know, in moving in, I'd start to come to recognize shadows going through, and was starting to wonder if my house didn't have some possession, because I swore my grandson left one room and went to another, and he hadn't. It was something that I was spotting. And it's happened numerous times. I even had a friend in from Virginia who was sitting in a chair and saw the shadow come out and turn around and said, "What the was that?" And I said, "Oh, you saw it too?" And he said, "Yes." What was it? We still, to this day, don't know if this is somebody that lived on this property, is trying to communicate with us in some way, but we're going to find out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we're going to get ready to start our investigation.
Okay, so me and Dave are getting ready to go do a K2 sweep. We're going to check to see if there's any hot spots. We're going to go check the guest room real quick and see if we come across anything. You ready, Dave?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's go.
No, because it went away.
Just went away.
So that was a hit. We actually had a hit. Try that one more time.
Yeah, no, not getting it now.
No, we actually had a hit.
Actually, this room's pretty clean, so we didn't get other than that one little spike there. So
we're going to go to the basement?
Yeah, let's go ahead and head to the basement real quick.
All right. Here, I'll turn the flashlight.
Yeah, flashlight.
There you go.
No more refrigerator hits.
Okay. We do have a 360 periscope sitting in the corner. How you making out? Anything?
Nothing. So far so good.
So far nothing. Let's say we try that closet.
Yeah, let's do that shot.
If there's anybody in here with us, we're really not trying to hurt you. We're just trying to see if we can find you or if there's a reason for these lights to go off. All clear.
Good. So it looks like the K2 sweep came out pretty clean.
Yeah.
So we should have good solid hits when we ask for them. So.
Yes, I think we should. We
Good.
just had somebody let us know they will be playing with us tonight.
Sweet.
So we should have some fun.
Alrighty, let's go.
All right, thank you.
So here we are in Philadelphia, and we are getting ready. We just set up all of our equipment, and we are just about to go lights out. We have a whole bunch of different camera angles that Dave will show you in a couple of minutes. And everybody excited about this one?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
It's been entirely too long, so we're really excited to get back into things. So, everybody, see you in the green.
Hi, we do have 6 cameras tonight set up in the house. Our first one is in the basement towards the steps facing into the basement. Our second one is in the guest bedroom aiming out towards the stairs. Our third one is in the loft. Our fourth one is in the basement aiming towards the steps. Our next one is in the living room, aiming towards the basement stairs, where people seem to see an apparition. And there's one from the kitchen aiming up to the loft, where people have seen the same things. So if we're ready to go, I'd say let's turn off the lights and have some fun. Please, I really would appreciate it.
Can you light up the
We
one
all would.
to the right?
It goes to different colors. There's red.
There you go.
There you go. Keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Keep going, please.
Or if you want, you can take your time. We're not gonna try to rush you. You just want to figure out how to work it.
Thank you.
But if you can, just keep going to the right. No rush.
Take as long as you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
They've got K2 hit.
I'm getting hits.
Another K2 hit.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Can you go back the other way?